can't put my love on the line. I hope you understand. So baby, if you want me, you got to show me love. Words are so easy to say, but you got to show me love.
And we asked these 10 love experts the one big question we've been wondering. Is there conflict in marriages? Here are their responses.
Oh, yeah.
According to Sanford in the Journal of Family Psychology in 2006, conflict in marriages determines the extent to which couples will engage in detrimental forms of communication. According to Britt and Houston in The Economic Issues in 2012, as well as Stanley and Einhorn in Hitting Pay Dirt in 2007, say that money plays an important factor when it comes to conflict between married couples. Let's head over to our love experts to see if this is true for them.
Yes. Terry does not know what a budget means, so after 5 years I gave up worrying about a budget and just realized I'm going to have to work really hard the rest of my life.
Gottman from the Journal of Consulting in Clinical Psychology in 1993 mentioned that it's very normal in a couple that one person is a spender and one is a saver. The problem is you think you're justified and the other person is at fault.
We had to decide who was going to be the person to pay the bills or not pay the bills. And we came from both being on our own for a while, and so coming into the marriage, it was trying to figure out who was going to do that. And I think right away, I figured out that I didn't really want you doing that.
My wife loves those 30% coupons from Kohl's. You get them every other day, and she goes up there every other day.
One final statement from Margolin, Berman, and John from Behavioral Assessments in 1989 also shows that issues tend to arise when couples move in together or get married and face the decision about whether to combine finances, a notoriously difficult choice.
According to Kurdick in the Journal of Marriage and Family in 1994, another part of life that causes conflict in married couples is their children.
Carl Pickhardt, a psychologist who's written multiple books about parenting, previously told Business Insider that the number one question you and your partner should discuss before having kids is, how do you manage joint decision making?
Now let's get back to the love experts.
He was raised Catholic and I was raised a bit more agnostic, and we had to decide how that was going to play out, and we chose that we would raise our kids Catholic.
Katz and Wooden, experts on child development, in 2002 mentioned, if you have a family, a large number of arguments are about the right way of bringing up the kids. Once upon a time, it was clear it was the mother, or the father, depending on which era you chose. Now it's anybody's guess.
Because you have to recognize that if you made a choice for your children, that doesn't necessarily mean that you now have both changed what you thought or believed in. You've got to figure out how to manage, how to display that to your kids, and how to make that real for them without necessarily having to have a debate with them every weekend as to, well, why does mom do this and you do that? But we are a collective doing this, and you're part of that team, and this is the bigger goal. And so it takes work, and it takes work every week to make that come together.
LeBaltz from the Business Insider in 2018 states that a common parenting problem is that one parent is more lenient and one parent is stricter.
The main conflict with parenting was that I was an only child and he was one of 6 and kind of a middle child. So our parenting skills were a little different. He was pretty strict and I was pretty lenient.
There's always going to be challenges, there's always going to be disagreements. And what we do a lot is at times play good cop, bad cop when it comes to making a decision that we think is best for our kids. Someone has to be the good cop and someone has to be the one that says, no, we can't do this.
According to Stacy, Bippas, and Dunbar from the Southern Communication Journal in 2015, housework causes many stressors and arguments between married couples. According to a 2007 Pew Research poll, sharing household chores is the third most important factor in a successful marriage.
What she's saying is she does most of the cooking, all the cooking. She does the grocery shopping, she does most of the house cleaning, and she does the laundry. And those are true, and I'm grateful for that. But what I would also say too is you know, and I think Amy did a good job of talking about there's some areas where I'm primary and some areas where she isn't. But I guess relatively speaking, we're somewhat traditional in most of those chores and responsibilities. But I do chip in from now on. I scramble
He's
eggs.
actually
I do
a good
scramble
egg
eggs.
scrambler and a vacuumer, getting better and better every day.
It was determined quite early in our marriage that you kept Dad away from the stove in the kitchen. But Mom had a unique talent, and she could cook, and she could cook very well. So I knew enough to stay away and just stay away from the kitchen. But at the end of the meal, my chore was to wash the dishes and put the dishes in the dishwasher. Over the years, I guess you would say we were pretty much traditional. I didn't know where the laundry room in the house was for many, many years. And Mom didn't know where the lawnmower in the house was for many, many years.
Tends to leave stuff on top of the hamper, so when you go to put clothes in the hamper, they end up on the floor because she's got our cleaning things on top of the hamper. She does good cutting the grass outside, which I love, but I think I'm the only guy in the neighborhood that's repairing his tractor once a week as a result of that. But that's okay, because that beats cutting the grass.
According to Lot in The Guardian in 2015, to one person, the other will always be a slob. To the slob, the other will be a control freak. Accepting these differences and that there are limits to the amount that the other is capable of changing is the secret to solving this conundrum.
That my dear husband does not pick up after himself. And after a day, it's too hard to stay mad, so I just get on with life and start waiting on him hand and foot like I have for
Because I know she
61
doesn't
years.
mean to be mad at me, so I don't get mad at her.
Hey, the bed doesn't get made every day.
Yes, it does.
Brooks of the New York Times in 2018 mentioned if you're upset about housework, don't start the fight by criticizing your partner with, "You never help me." Focus on the complaint and what will make it better. According to Pope in the New York Times in 2007, good relationships don't happen overnight. They take commitment, compromise, forgiveness, and most of all, effort.
Pope from the New York Times in 2007 explained that the fight isn't so much about the issue itself as it is about the lack of communication. Working on your communication skills is the key to resolving them.
But in the end, love conquers all.
That's a good one.
2 rules to a happy marriage. The first rule is whatever she says is right. The second rule is if you ever get confused, refer back to rule number 1.
And there's never not conflict when you're living with someone for many, many years.
I think, and you're going to see this right here, is build a community, because your relationship is built on the community you live in, and none of us knew each other prior to having children and a little bit after that, and here we are 20 some years later and supporting each other every day.
Yeah,
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Well said.
From my perspective, I think the one thing to note is communication's been mentioned, and communication helps because each of us have a different perspective. We have a different perspective about what's important, what's not important, what's right, what's wrong. And communication helps gain the perspective from your spouse so that you have a better, sometimes, most of the time, it helps you, to try to come to a middle ground or to enlighten yourself in terms of realizing that, hey, maybe I need to change my way of thinking or my viewpoint to get to a better outcome.
I guess the other thing I would say is too, as you go over time, is you start as 2 individuals, and as you work together and build together and grow together and have a family, even the notion of compromise isn't the same as it was when you were 2 people coming together as individuals. So you work together and you're always working towards a common goal, and so you just understand where the other person needs to get to, and how that's going to fit. And so you're generally, the more you do it well, the more you're working together. And so it's not even compromise. It's really just taking the next step and understanding where you as a team want to go together.
According to Dr. Gottman, conflict is an opportunity to learn to love our partner better over time.